Prime Minister Justin Trudeau proudly told Canadians that his government will remove a visa requirement for Mexican visitors coming to Canada. Mexican President Enrique Pena-Nieto is in town, and Trudeau wanted to impress his counterpart and make some headlines in the process. So starting in 2017, anyone from Mexico will be able to hop on a plane and come to Canada whenever they want, without any prior checks or screenings. So what's the big deal? Well, back in 2009, the Harper government was dealing with a crisis when it came to Mexican visitors to Canada. Each and every month, we would have about 1,000 Mexican visitors claiming that they were refugees. In 2008 alone, there were nearly 10,000 refugee claims from Mexicans in Canada. Now, by way of background for folks who don't know very much about our asylum system and how it works in Canada, anyone from anywhere in the world can come to Canada and claim to be a refugee. No matter where that person is from, Canadian law requires that we treat all individual cases the same, and that each determination case is treated like a real court case. This is all thanks to a 1985 Supreme Court decision known as the Singh ruling. So once a person makes this refugee claim in Canada, they immediately get access to all of our taxpayer-funded social services, welfare, social programs, universal health care, education, you name it, they get it. They also get access to a program called the Interim Federal Health Care Program, which gives them taxpayer-funded dental care and other goodies that most Canadians have to pay for themselves out of their own pocket. These asylum claimants also get full access to our justice system. They get taxpayer-funded legal aid and all of the legal protection of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It takes months and sometimes years for the government to process all these claims. And then even if a judge ultimately finds a claim to be false, meaning the person doesn't meet the UN definitions and international standards of a refugee in need of Canada's protection, well, the person can simply appeal the decision and prolong their stay in Canada for years and sometimes even decades. You know, the whole system, this whole scheme, it costs Canadian taxpayers billions of dollars each and every year. But when it came to Mexicans seeking asylum in Canada, the vast majority of the cases were eventually found to be bogus. They were either rejected by a Canadian judge or they were abandoned by the refugee applicant themselves. In 2008, before the visa, 89% of cases from Mexico were bogus. And that's why in 2009, the Harper government imposed a visa on Mexican visitors. And you know what? The policy worked exactly as it was supposed to. The number of asylum claims from Mexico fell sharply, and the Mexicans who were able to come and claim asylum in Canada were much more likely to be real bona fide refugees. And when it came to the new tourist visa for Mexicans, it was easy to get, and the approval rating was 95%. So tens of thousands of Mexicans come to Canada each year legally to work, and hundreds of thousands more come each year legally as tourists. Getting a visa is fairly straightforward. So if most Mexicans can already come to Canada very easily, and the visa policy was massively successful in reducing fraud and welfare scams, why is the Trudeau government removing it? It's a good question, and that question was asked by a Conservative MP to the Liberal government, and you won't believe how the government answered. Here is a document that the Trudeau government submitted to Parliament earlier this week. They were asked, with respect to the government's commitment to lift the visa requirement for Mexican nationals entering Canada, has the department conducted a formal visa review? Pretty straightforward question. Here's the answer. A formal visa review of Mexico has not been conducted. Why would they? Or here, look at this question. With respect to asylum rates for Mexican nationals, what is the threshold used under Canada's visa policy framework to indicate an acceptable level of risk? And here's the answer. First, they say, the threshold for asylum rates under Canada's visa policy framework is 2% on an annual basis. But then right there it says the asylum rate for Mexican nationals for the last calendar year before the visa requirement was imposed was 25.65%. So the government's own threshold for a visa for a country is that that country's visitors only make up 2% of our total asylum claims. But before the visa was imposed for Mexico, Mexicans made up a quarter of all asylum claims in Canada, almost 26%. You know, nothing about this policy makes sense, except for one thing. It makes Trudeau himself look good on the world stage. And when it comes to appeasing world leaders, when it comes to putting optics and feel-good politics and foreign interests ahead of Canadians and our safety and our security? Well, that seems to be Trudeau's specialty. I'm Candice Malcolm for TheRebel.media.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of The Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.